Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority.
8:37 on the Morning Majority. Brian Neiman and Mary Catherine Ham here in D.C. Brian Wilson live from Columbia, South Carolina.
Yep.
And we're talking to Senator Rand Paul this morning. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Hey, well, it is the day after the internet blackout. A lot of sites went black or made a protest about SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act. You've been staunchly against it from the beginning. There were a lot of GOP defections yesterday in the Senate, people who had been in favor of the bill leaving. What's the status now? And tell me just about your concerns about it.
Well, I think it shows sort of the power of the internet grassroots movement that a lot of people who are for this have actually backed away, and I think there's a chance of stopping it. My concern is that you could be accused of something, accused of using copyright material, and your website would be shut down. And that sort of flies in the face of what we usually like to see in America, is that if you're accused of a crime, you get your day in court before anyone makes a decision on your guilt. And so I worry about the internet being clogged up with, if you're selling T-shirts and I'm selling T-shirts and you don't like me because I'm out competing you, you complain, get my website shut down because I have a music video also on there that may be copyrighted. Really, the copyright seems to be working. Like on YouTube, if you put something up on YouTube that has music by Madonna, her record company complains and YouTube takes it down. And really, that opportunity for voluntarily taking down copyrighted material can work and be allowed to work without giving excessive power to government to decide these things without any kind of court hearing.
Now, supporters of the bill say that's not true, that there is a process by which you go through, you can make an appeal, or what is it that is shut down immediately once someone makes a complaint? Is it a revenue stream, or is it the actual blocking of the site?
Well, I think some of the versions of the bill had blocking of the domain sites, some of it had blocking of access, but then you're right, a lot of it was blocking your ability to take in money. But, if you're selling T-shirts, if you can't use PayPal or Visa, you're essentially shut down. And let's say I just started the website out of my garage, and it's a small business. The legal fees associated with trying to defend myself against the Motion Picture Association of America, they're a very big player with a lot of lawyers and a large budget. I just think it's going to be David versus Goliath, and David's going to get his website shut down without a hearing in court. So I think it should be very difficult or a little bit more difficult for people to shut down websites, and there ought to be a process. The other thing is I think loser ought to pay.
Right.
So if you come to me, you have a T-shirt company and I have one, and I've got a Madonna video and you shut me down, I think that if for some reason we go through a court proceeding and we lose, you ought to pay all my legal bills too.
The XL pipeline shut down yesterday by the Obama administration, and they blame Republicans because it was put in the payroll extension bill. I'm curious on 2 points. Number one, were Republicans wrong in putting that in the bill? I mean, did they get kind of outmaneuvered in that because the president ultimately still got to say no? And number two, is there anything that can be done this year to get that thing rolling again, or do you have to wait until after the election?
Didn't you get the memo from the White House? The Republicans are always wrong.
Yeah, well, I know.
So, anyway, I think it's a loser for him. I think, while a lot of people think President Obama is very adept at politics, I think it's just going to be a big loser for him because there's at least 20,000 energy jobs going to the working class, some of it going to union workers. Most of the organized unions in our country have actually come out in favor of this pipeline.
Right.
People who are pro-energy independence and America producing more energy are for this pipeline. He's really running the gauntlet against the vast majority of America. And in the middle of a recession when we need American jobs, I really think this is a big loser for him. And it just shows, though, how beholden he is to the environmental extremists. And we'll see where it goes, but I don't know if we'll be able to force him to or not. I do think it was actually a good thing to stick that in the mix of the debate over the payroll tax.
Can I ask you about what's going on in South Carolina? There were a lot of people in South Carolina. Romney was here, Gingrich was here, Santorum was here, Perry was here. I noticed yesterday your dad was not here. I don't want to hold you responsible for the campaign decisions that your dad makes, but you have been supportive of his campaign. Why was he not here?
I'm not sure where he was yesterday. I thought he was in South Carolina yesterday. But the interesting thing about my dad is he says he has one vice, and that's that he's addicted to exercise. So if he's not in South Carolina, he's riding his bike in Texas.
Oh, really?
Or, yeah, he just, like anybody else, if you do the same thing every day and you don't take a break for yourself and you don't exercise, I think that's what rejuvenates him. He has more energy than all of the kids combined. And but occasionally he takes a day off and spends time with his family, and I think that's just who he is. He's always done it that way.
He does look like he's in great shape, that's for sure. Hey, listen, Bill Kristol, conservative analyst, Weekly Standard, he's a pretty high-profile conservative. The Weekly Standard said that it would be better off if Ron Paul left the Republican Party because of his isolationist policy when it comes to foreign policy. What do you make of that criticism from Bill Kristol?
Well, I think it's unfair because I think Ron Paul believes in a very strong national defense. He thinks it's the primary thing that the federal government should be doing, that most of the things up there that we do really were not enumerated in the Constitution. But I would say that some of the neoconservatives are conservative only in believing in a bellicose foreign policy. They're not very conservative, and I don't want to say this about Bill Kristol, but I would say it about some neoconservatives aren't very conservative on a lot of other issues. They came to the party as Democrats, as people who believed in a strong national defense, and they came to us because the Democrats were no longer strong on national defense, but they brought with them a lot of ideas for big government as far as government expansion of Medicare, No Child Left Behind. These are the big government Republicans who believe in a lot of expansion of entitlement programs, and so I don't think that them criticizing Ron Paul and saying he shouldn't be in the party when some really say, well, some of these neocons that came from the Democrat Party really are out of place in the sense that they're not very much Barry Goldwater-like, and a lot of them hate Barry Goldwater. So really Ron Paul is in the mold of Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan in saying that, Ronald Reagan ran against the Department of Education, said it shouldn't be done at the federal level. It's not in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Ron Paul's the only one on the stage who still believes that.
Real quick, Senator, when it comes to the SOPA thing, there's a lot of weird left-right agreement that you don't usually see. Do you feel like this could be, for lack of a better word, a teachable moment for lefties on overbearing regulation? Because all of a sudden they're like, ooh, unintended consequences, and they're worried about all this stuff.
Yeah, I think so. And, the other thing that I think is a teachable moment is I go all around my state talking about No Child Left Behind, and I've been trying to convince the teachers who hate No Child Left Behind that the teachable moment is that centralized control of education in Washington is not a good idea. We need to be for local control. And they understand it because they don't like the federal government, getting involved and telling them everything to do in their local school districts. So if we can get the teachers to believe in decentralized control of education, that's a teachable moment. Same with SOPA, but there are other civil liberties issues as well. There have been those of us who thought that, for example, we had a vote when I was up there about 3 weeks ago where one senator said that if you're found innocent in a court, that you could still be detained indefinitely and sent to Guantanamo Bay. And we actually won that. We won that argument with a combination of Democrats and Republicans saying, you know what, if a court finds you innocent, keeping you indefinitely sort of flies in the face of the belief that the courts get to decide. Once you have your day in your court, you can't be held in prison if a court finds you innocent.
Senator Paul, always good to have you on. Thanks very much.